What up, world? R.I.C.H coming right back at you. This one right here is a hot topic. The internet is buzzing, and I'm over here trying to find the middle. Because I'm going to be honest, this ain't an easy one to call. I'm hard-pressed to pick a side because both of them have points. On one hand, I get where StephenASmith is coming from. He saw something in Jasmine Crockett's delivery that felt counterproductive. But on the other hand, I get why Jasmine and her supporters felt disrespected. Because even if you're making a valid point, it's all about how you say it and who you say it to.
Let me tell you what gets me annoyed. And I hope Jasmine Crockett is listening to this. And by the way, she's welcome on the show. When you go on national television and you calling the president of the United States out of his name, and you're being all disrespectful, as a representative in this country, do you believe the citizens of Texas sent you there to do that?
Anybody does need to clean up DC, I would agree it is this man, because he is the one that is causing half the crime that we have. Not only is he participating in the crime, but we know that he instigated the insurrection. And if I did say that I had one issue with the Biden-Harris administration, it is the fact that they did not move forward and make sure that this man was put where he should have been put. Because the last time I checked as a criminal defense attorney, and Mr. Attorney General, you may have a different experience, but I never had a defendant that had 34 convictions for felonies and did not spend one day in jail.
And I just want to say, I mean, serious, StephenASmith is in this spot where he's decided to enter politics and he knows nothing about politics. I'm being sincere about this. Nothing about politics. Nothing. I haven't heard one interesting thought from StephenASmith politically, ever.
Got some breaking news out of Texas. Republican lawmakers have just released a new congressional map, and it does not include Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett's home within her own district. Let me say that again. They've redrawn the line so that Jasmine Crockett, one of the most outspoken black women in Congress, is no longer living inside the district she was elected to represent.
He has now told Representative Jasmine Crockett that she needs to learn how to work with that man in the White House. You know, the Constitution actually provides that the president has to work with Congress. You see, Congress is a co-equal branch of the government. As a matter of fact, congressional members can be there in perpetuity. They can be there until they die. A president is term limited, which once again is why the Constitution is built upon the principle of co-equal, brother.
I'm not here to tear either one of them down. I'm here to break down why both sides make sense and where both sides might be wrong. Let's start with Stephen A. He been talking about everything lately. Sports, politics, relationships, religion.
He ain't lying.
And look, I respect the man's grind. Nobody outworks him. He's built himself into a brand. But there's a difference between having a tape and having the experience to own that tape. And sometimes when you stretch yourself too thin, you start sounding like you commentating just to commentate. That's what's happening right now. Stephen A. done got so used to having a mic, he feel like he got to speak on everything. Every debate ain't your arena. You've been in sports for 30 plus years. That's your foundation. And that's where you built your name. That's where you're the master. But when you start jumping into politics, in the law, into the movements of black women in power, that's a different territory. And you can't bring ESPN energy into congressional conversations. That's a different game, different audience, different consequences. And in this game, one wrong word can turn you from respected to resented real quick. Stephen A. said, is it going to help your district? And I know exactly what he's saying. Be strategic, be effective. But the problem is, the way it came out, it felt like a lecture. And when a black man with his platform starts lecturing a black woman who's been taking hits for years, it comes off like a pile-on. Now let's talk about Jasmine Crockett, because that woman is passionate, she's sharp, and she don't hold her tongue. She's built a reputation with fighting words. Sometimes too hard, sometimes too fast, but always from the heart. In a world full of people playing it safe, she stands on business. But here's the truth. There's a fine line between passion and self-sabotage. When you come at the president of the United States, even if you disagree, you still got to move with strategy. Because the real question ain't whether you're right, it's whether you're effective. And sometimes you can be right and still lose the room because the delivery overshadowed the message. She knows she can't work with Trump like everything's cool, but that don't mean she can't pick up battles wisely. The goal is not just to fight, it's to win something for the people who sent you there. And if your words turn into a war zone, you can't build no bridge through that fire. So I get why Stephen A. spoke up, but he got to understand, Jasmine Crockett already knows that. She's in the fire. And when you speak on her without walking in her shoes, you risking sounding like another critic, not an ally. The internet went crazy. Folks called Stephen A. out, said he had black women issues. Angela Rye, Tiffany Cross, Andrew Gillum, they all spoke on it. Even Willie D from the Ghetto Boys called him out, called him weak. And when you hear that, you start to realize This ain't just about one comment. It's about a pattern that he too often targets women who speak their mind. Now, I'm not saying that's his intention, but perception is powerful. And the perception right now is that Stephen A. loves to critique black women louder than he loves to praise them. And in 2025, that's a bad look. Here's why I stand. I'm not going to cancel StephenASmith, and I'm not going to pretend like Jasmine Crockett can't be critiqued. But I'm going to say this. Both of them got to recognize the game they in. She's in politics, he's in media. Both are public, both are powerful, and both require tact. You can't just fire off every thought and expect sympathy, because words have consequences, and everybody's waiting to twist yours. Stephen A. got to learn when to step back. Every topic ain't his to own, and Jasmine got to learn when to step forward strategically. Every fight ain't worth your energy. Sometimes the smartest move is letting somebody else be loud while you stay effective, because the win ain't always in the sound, it's in the results. At the end of the day, this whole thing shows us how fragile influence really is. You can be loved on Monday and torn apart by Friday. You can be a legend in one field and still get lost when you stray too far out of bounds. And that's what Stephen A. is right now. He's a talented brother, a hard worker, a success story. But he's so busy trying to be everywhere, sometimes he ends up nowhere. And as for Jasmine Crockett, she's a warrior, a voice, a representative of the people. But even warriors got to learn when to holster the sword and pick up the strategy. So if you ask me who's right, both and neither. Because both of them remind us that passion without purpose can lead to chaos. And sometimes the strongest move ain't speaking. It's understanding when to listen, when to think before you react, and when to let the fire cool down before you add your fuel. Because the world don't need more voices yelling. We need more people listening. But hey, that's just my opinion. What's yours? Like, comment, subscribe, establish rich. I'll be back with another one. Peace.